I still remember the sound of laughter before I remember anything else. Not loud laughter, not even cruel laughter. The casual kind, the kind people use when they're absolutely sure they're safe. I was pushing a cleaning cart into a glass-walled boardroom on the 42nd floor, wearing a faded Navy janitor's uniform that smelled faintly of disinfectant and coffee grounds. The meeting was already underway. 12 people around a polished table, expensive suits, water glasses untouched, confidence dripping from every sentence. Someone looked up, then another, and then one of them smirked. I think maintenance got the wrong schedule," a man said, leaning back in his chair. "This meeting's a little above mop and bucket level." A few chuckles rippled through the room. Another voice followed. "Guess even the elevators don't know where people belong these days." More laughter, easy laughter, comfortable laughter. I stopped the cart near the door hands resting on the handle and waited. That part matters. I didn't flinch, didn't rush, didn't apologize yet. I'd learned a long time ago that the first reaction people expect from someone like me is embarrassment. The second is submission. I gave them neither. The woman at the head of the table, sharp haircut, sharper eyes, glanced at her watch. "We're in the middle of a sensitive discussion," she said, not unkindly, just efficiently. "Can you come back later?" Her tone told me everything. She wasn't offended by the mockery, she just didn't want it to slow things down. I nodded. "Won't take long." That earned another laugh. One of the men, tall, loud, clearly enjoying himself, added, "Take your time. We're only deciding the future of the company." That one stung. Not because it was clever, because it wasn't. I began emptying the trash bins along the wall, moving slowly, deliberately, listening. They talked numbers, acquisitions, headcount reductions, streamlining, cultural excess, words people use when they don't want to say who's about to lose their job. Every few minutes, someone glanced at me like I was furniture that had learned to walk. At one point, the loud guy dropped a crumpled paper on the floor instead of the bin. Didn't even look down. I picked it up anyway. When I bent, he leaned over to his neighbor and said, not even quietly, "That's why you don't skip college." The room laughed again. This time, something shifted inside me. Not anger exactly, more like recognition. I'd heard that line before. Different faces, same tone. Over and over across decades. See, what none of them knew, what my uniform hid very well, was that I'd built this company 30 years earlier with 2 other people and a folding table. I'd slept in my office, missed birthdays, mortgaged everything I owned more than once. I'd stepped away from daily operations years ago on purpose, let the company grow without my shadow, let leadership prove itself. And lately, I'd been hearing things, complaints, whispers, exit interviews that didn't quite line up. So I decided to see for myself, not as the founder, not as the majority shareholder, but as someone they thought didn't matter. The loud guy finally noticed me watching the projected charts. "Hey," he said, grinning, "you following along there, or should we slow it down?" A few people snorted. I looked at the screen, then at him, then back at the screen. Quietly I said, "You're assuming the integration costs will flatten by Q3. His smile froze for half a second. "That's right," he said cautiously. "Yes, they won't," I replied. "Not with Westbridge's debt structure. You're off by at least 8 figures. The room went silent. Then he laughed louder than before. Too loud. "Wow," he said, "that's adorable. You've been reading finance blogs on your breaks." Someone added, "Careful, he might want your chair next." The laughter came back, but thinner now. I nodded once, turned back to my cart, and continued toward the door. Behind me, someone cleared their throat. Someone else avoided eye contact. No one stopped it. And that told me more than the insults ever could. I left the room without another word. In the supply closet down the hall, I closed the door and stood there for a moment, hands shaking just enough to notice. Not from fear, from restraint. Memories crept in, being mistaken for the delivery guy at my own product launch. Being asked if I worked here while wearing a badge that said CEO. Watching younger men explain my own ideas back to me like they'd just invented fire. I took a breath, then another, and I made a call. The next morning, the same boardroom filled again, same people, same table, different energy. I wasn't wearing the uniform this time. I walked in wearing a charcoal suit that fit the way success fits when it's earned comfortably, quietly. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. The woman at the head of the table stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. The loud guy's face drained of color. "I believe you know who I am." I said, taking the empty seat without asking. "But just in case, I'm the person who signs off on whether this company exists in its current form next quarter." Silence. I placed a folder on the table, then another. I listened. "Yesterday," I continued, calm as still water. "Not just to what you said, to how you said it, to who you thought deserved respect when you believed none was required." No one laughed now. The loud guy tried to speak. "Sir." I raised a hand, not angry, final. "This isn't about hurt feelings," I said. "It's about judgment. And judgment, when you're in power, has consequences." I didn't fire anyone on the spot. That surprises people. I didn't yell, didn't humiliate them back. I simply told them what would happen next. Independent audits, leadership changes, deals reevaluated. Culture addressed, not with slogans, but with action. Some people resigned before lunch. Others stayed very quiet. As for the loud guy, he couldn't meet my eyes. When the meeting ended, I stood, buttoned my jacket, and headed for the door. As I passed the spot where I'd stood the day before with a cleaning cart, I paused. I looked back at the room, at the people who had laughed so easily, and I said, "The funny thing about power is, it doesn't change who you are. It just removes the mask." Then I left. No applause, no dramatic music, just the sound of my footsteps fading down the hall. And later, much later, when the building was quiet again, I saw a janitor emptying bins near the elevators. Young guy. Nervous smile. I nodded at him. He nodded back. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I felt at peace. So here's my question for you. Do you think people become cruel when they gain power, or do they finally feel safe enough to show who they've been all along? Tell me what you think.